featherweight will feature two very functioning, youthful, and most successful debaters this country has to offer. And then we're going to progress to the heavyweights, where they will have 10 minutes each and an opportunity to POI each other the questions that they wish to ask one another. Altogether, they're going to have about, 20 minutes of conversation per side, with all the introductions and outros, 40 minutes in total, and that will be followed closely by you guys interacting with the debaters. The purpose of this debate competition is to get people to get engaged, to get involved, to get into the conversation. Not be a pedestrian, not be a passenger, but to join in the conversation. Hence, KBS, or the Ministry of Youth and Sports, have tried out this particular slogan and it resonates extremely well, which is Reaction Youth Engaged. And over the past 2 days, folks at Youth Reaction 1, literally that's the handle name, at Youth Reaction 1, have done a post-debate poll. We've asked this question: is repealing the anti-fake news a mistake? And the results have just been closed about half an hour ago. And the results are very interesting. I personally thought it would be lopsided to one another, but it turns out that before this debate starts, people in Malaysia believes that this is a really 50-50 kind of debate. Because 46% of you voted that it is a mistake, and 54% of you believe that it's not a mistake. This is just one of the many topics that is going to be discussed in this debate series. And again, a round of applause to UIA for organizing this, a hearty support from PBS and some of our media partners, including that of RTM, and of course, my employer, Asrawani. Before this, Asrawani has been featuring politicians discussing very serious issues about UMNO and the presidency, about PKR and the vice president contest. But this is the first time we're going to be discussing real issues. In fact, these are the issues that will impact everyone, not just in this room, but the entire state of Malaysia. And this is why it's important. The philosophy behind debate is something that we all must embrace. Kata patah, menteri pelajaran, kita cakap bercampur-campur. Maka dengan ini, saya bersahati dan berbangga untuk mempersembahkan sidang debat siri Youth Re-Engage. Re-Engage. Reaction Youth, panjang tu, Reaction Youth Engage, di mana belia-belia serata negara boleh melibatkan diri di dalam debat ini, dan belia-belia telah pun bersuara sebelum debat ini bermula dengan menyatakan bahawa mereka setuju atau tidak setuju dengan topik ini, iaitu sama ada pemansuhan akta berita tidak benar adalah satu kesilapan. 46% menyatakan bahawa ia benar satu kesilapan, dan 54% menyatakan bahawa ia tidak ada kesilapan. Maka mereka setuju akta berita tidak palsu harus dimansuhkan. Maka itu adalah antara engagement yang kita adakan sebelum debat ini bermula. Persidangan ini akan berlangsung dalam bahasa Inggeris. Maka saya akan beralih bahasa ke bahasa Inggeris sepanjang masa ini. And I will now translate much of it, or change the language and keep to one. You can't be bercampur-campur all the time. You have to choose and stick to one language. So this is the language that we're going to speak on. For folks at home, you can ask questions online, use Youth Power hashtag, tag Youth Reaction 1, also tag some of the media outlets out there, including that of Asrawani and of course IUM, and ask your questions questions pointedly and directly. There are 4 speakers here. You can ask any of them anything online. I'm sure they'll be happy to take your questions. But after the speeches here, I will open the debate to the floor. Now, if you have any POIs, which is point of information, this is the kind of questions that you want to cross-examine the debaters. You can ask Sharif on the side of the proposition. You can also ask Minister, like Syed Saddiq, side of the opposition. You can use these 2 microphones on the right of the House to ask Sharif, which means you slightly believe that this is indeed a mistake. You want to ask him a question. But if you want to ask the Minister himself, like Syed Saddiq, you can use these microphones on the left side of the House, sorry, on the right side of the House to ask the Minister those questions. Fair, simple, and important. Those are the kind of procession that will take place. During the Q&A, we'll engage you yet again. At Reaction Youth 1, we'll open another poll. And this time, it's called the post-debate poll. Vouch their word and vote based on your conscience, based on what was the argument presented, and honestly answer the question, indeed, is this motion going to succeed or fail? The post-debate to the poll will take place right after the debate ends, when I open the floor for questions. So keep your Twitter handy. For those that are yet to open a Twitter account, I guess now would be a good time to do so. From one minister, I will now invite the next minister and all the other debaters. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the debaters for this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a typical proceeding of a debate tournament seen in the International Varsity Debate. The road to debating has come a long way. When I was a debater back 10 years ago, it was nowhere near where the successes of where the UIA stage has right now. We have among us some debating greats, and hopefully we'll see a performance that will be remembered by many. Before we start, there are some house rules. And I will conduct this debate in a typical moderator-engaged manner how the debate progresses. So bear with me. For audience, you've got 3 things that you remember. Do not leave the room while the speakers are talking. 2, switch off your phones. Be reminded that this is a live telecast show. So, well, I guess don't pick your nose. And the 3rd thing, most important of all, enjoy the debate. Don't heckle the speakers, but indeed, this is after all the sharing of ideas and minds. It's important for us to enjoy the debate, after all is said and done. For the debaters, there is also 3 pointers that you guys have to remember in each other. All speakers must treat each other with respect, while good humor, good banter, and is encouraged with, and also many other little quirks that is part and parcel of the tactic of a debate is highly encouraged. Do not heckle with one another. I think being the only MP on the stage, you know best in terms of heckling and effects of it. The 3rd thing, views expressed, this is important, amongst the debaters here must not be taken personal. They are views that is expressed in a controlled system, in a controlled manner, that is only applicable to this debate. You should not be used against them in terms of the statements being made. That is the most important lesson we have to take away from debaters. After all, we just want the best idea to come out of this all, not to pick fights. We can pick fights in another room. Without further much ado, and I'd be cute to start talking about introducing speakers. Before I invite the first speaker of the proposition, this individual here is one of a very unique speaker. He is indeed the Asian champion and two-time best speaker of the year. He just turned 18, and that's the best part. I hope that you're applying for this university. I'm sure Tan Sri will facilitate, assuming you get the grades necessary. And of course, he's the captain of Team Malaysia and the university, the inter-school debating championship of the world. So, without further much ado, may I invite to the floor Kishan Siva Balan.
Muhammad Azam, 27 years old, a call center worker in Karnataka, India, an innocent man, killed 3 months ago in a mob lynching in India. This was one of 25, at least 25 different cases of mob lynchings, all based on a piece of news that individuals were kidnapping children. That piece of news was false. If you're a Rohingya, a member of the Rohingya minority in Myanmar, a minority group often victimized by the ruling state, fake news and fake media is often used to fan the flames of hatred against this Muslim minority. It's along the premise that they killed the Buddhist majority with full intent that they aid terrorist organizations. It is the day and age of fake news, and it's time we did something about it. What is our stance in team government? Our stance is pretty simple. In a world where fake news can be used to end the reputation and identity of an individual, threaten and ruin racial harmony, and even disrupt political stability, that repealing the Fake News Act was a step backwards for this country. Moving forward, we propose that we wholeheartedly support this policy and its aims in trying to curb fake news, but we believe in this side that this act could have been executed in a more efficient manner. Thus, as with the Multimedia and Commissions Act, we would propose some amendments towards this law to allow it to better suit its purpose. We have 3 amendments, the first of which we are in favor of more due process when it comes to prosecuting individuals that violate this law. This means the usage of warrants. This means the usage of registered arrests under our side. Secondly, we're going to take a page out of Germany's book in dealing with fake news. We're going to look at having and publicizing case-by-case reports of each and every incident, each and every arrest, and each and every prosecution to ensure full transparency of this law in its execution. And thirdly, we're going to push for an independent and unbiased organization, much like it was proposed in Sweden and the United Kingdom, to go through each case to ensure each and every bit of information be true or false. What is my point in this debate? My point is very simple. It's broken into 2 halves. The first is, why do we need fake news in today's day and age? And the second is, why existing and current laws are not enough to deal with this threat. Firstly, let's look at why we need this act. In order to analyze this point, we must first identify how individuals consume media in today's world. There's been an increase in trend of individuals consuming media off of social media, off of third-party actors. This is true. Let's look at an American case study. In America, over 66% of adults consume and rely heavily on social media as their primary source of news and their primary source of being informed. Even if you look at Malaysia, MCMC, our Malaysian Multimedia Commission, reports that there is a drastic increase year after year in the amount of people that use social media day by day. Why does all this occur? All of this occurs because social media is convenient. It has a shock and awe effect. It's able to concisely simplify each and every bit of information to a point where it's convenient. If this is true, it has adverse harms because social media cannot be regulated. It's extremely hard to ensure individuals cite and properly cite their sources of information, and it's especially hard to filter out malicious intent. When we talk about malicious intent, we talk about recently fake news surrounding our Attorney General stepping down. We talk about allegations that sacred sites such as button caves might be closed down by individuals that have nothing better to do but incite racial hatred and racial tensions amongst our society. We talk about individuals that question the efficiency of our police forces and the intent of our police forces. These are individuals that will continue to exist, and they currently do exist. And the question then is, does this side have an answer towards these individuals? Because let's look at their alternatives. The alternatives are quite simple. Some of them include the Defamation Act, which is inaccessible to a vast majority of individuals because defamation takes time and it costs money. And most importantly, a financial compensation isn't the solution to everything. Money cannot buy everything. If we look at blasphemy, and if we look at the Sedition Act, it is very limited and narrow ranges in being able to accommodate for fake news. If we look for the Communications and Multimedia Act, the one that was recently amended, which is going to be recently amended, even then, it only addresses fake news in a short paragraph and not in its entirety. We need an answer to fake news, and we always talk about making change. It happens in this side.
Hasha Adia, 16 years old. She is a Form 4 student from Sekolah Sri Putri Cahaya Samidaya. Round of applause for Sri Putri Samidaya right there. She is, of course, the champion of the Prime Minister's Cup 2018. And overall best speaker of the, arguably the best tournament in the world, the IIUM Inter-School Debating Championship.
There's already a global crackdown on fake news all over the world, not just by social media companies, but also by people on the ground and governments. Although we acknowledge the urgency of dealing with fake news, the question now becomes, number one, what constitutes a good arbiter of truth? And second, what is the best way to deal with fake news and who should be in charge of it? On government side, it told us that it should be in the hands of the government and that we should establish laws in order to curb this, right? As well-intentioned as that may be, we have to understand that the very existence of this law itself opens so much room for potential abuse, and that's something that we cannot risk, right? I think in this circumstance, all governments should be treated with equal, if not greater amount of scrutiny, which means that we cannot rely on promises per se. Hence why we in opposition offer to you a world in which we allow the power to be in the hands of the people, where it's our responsibility to read critically, to evaluate news and call out fake news upon encountering them online. Although we understand that fake news spreads extremely fast in this era, we think that the government's ability to respond and bring them down is equally as great because of the better institutions and better machinery that we have. Hence why we think that fake news can be clarified easily in this circumstance, right? But in all circumstances, we think that the media and the people should always regulate itself, and government intervention should never be something that we resort to. We all know that initially this act was used to clamp down on dissidents and also to infringe upon the people's rights to voice out their concerns against the government, right? Hence, I think in this circumstance, we all know that we don't want history to repeat itself. Even if abuse doesn't happen, I'll give you structural reasons as to why it hampers journalism within Malaysia, and that's not something that we can do. So moving on to my first argument, which is how it opens up capacity for abuse. Let's first understand why was this law established in the first place. Number one, understand that this law was created in the few weeks leading up to elections. Number two, it was also done in haste, and lastly, it was done without proper deliberation. What does this signal? Meaning that at its core, this law itself is designed for political interest, was never about protecting the people, right? Even if there was a council as they proposed, we know that the council will be selected by the government and abuse can still happen either way. Number two, let's look at the precedences in which there was government abuse, right? For example, scandals like one MPB and one Clayette. All these were able to take abuse, but once the truth was exposed, it was proven otherwise. What does this tell you? Number one, it tells you that what's false now can be true tomorrow. What's false now can be true 2 years down the road. Number two, it also tells you that what the government perceives as false can be true, and what the government perceives as true can also be false. Hence why we shouldn't allow the government to be the arbiter of truth, because they can easily manipulate it according to circumstance and according to their own interests. That's something we cannot control, right? That the power should always be in the hands of the people in order to generate better intellectual discourse, in order to get people more engaging. Here's a comparative on the just side. On the just side, governments can always hide behind the law in order to hide their misdeeds, and on opposition, it means you have an environment, even if fake demand the truth, people can still demand clarifications, and people can still demand explanations, right? We push governments to be more accountable, and that's something that we really want in opposition. We all know the consequences of the silence media. We think that power should always be in the hands of the people and be kept that way even once we have a change in government. Moving on to my second argument, how happens the progress we've had in journalism? Literally less than 24 hours post-elections, we saw the media began talking about issues that we never had the courage to before. Number two, we also realized that this bravery and outspokenness signals that the rakyat no longer tolerates names and can distinguish between what is true and what is false. Number three, we also see more truth being instantly exposed, and we think that that's inherently good for the culture of journalism. As valuable as this was, we think that all of this valuable progress will be happened at the point in time this law comes into play, because firstly, remember that this law is extremely poorly defined. The line between what is true and what is false is extremely vague and can be manipulated by governments. And number two, understand that the fact that whether or not something is true or false is dependent upon government evaluation and government interpretation. This is extremely harmful because it opens up so much room for abuse that harms people, right? What does this mean? We think that scandals will be swept under the rug and journalists become more hesitant and stay in the safe zone. People no longer pick up risky stories due to fear of potential punishment. When one person gets in prison, millions others get affected because it evokes fear within people who bring out stories that are sensitive and brings out stories that may cause them to suffer the same fate as that one person who has fear in them, because that's when investigative journalism dies and lots of voices are left unheard. If we're not careful, we no longer are the nation we aim to be. So the conclusion to this argument is, social media and the exposing of truth may be the reason why we got out of the giant mess, but if we're not careful, it may just lead us to another. So for all those reasons, I've never been proud to oppose. Thank you.
The champion and best speaker and the Asian champion. Sorry, Fakri, everyone.
After all that about government abuse, honestly, Saddiq, I expected you to have a bit more faith in your own government. But I'm going to deal with all those arguments and more. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever heard about the idea behind the paradox of tolerance? The idea behind the paradox of tolerance is that when a society is limitlessly tolerant to ideas, it eventually becomes seized by those who are intolerant. And the same thing is true about truth. When a society allows anything to be said and everything to be said, eventually the truth becomes overcome by falsehood. We on the side of government do not want to allow truth to become overcome by falsehood. That's what we're standing for today. Ladies and gentlemen, the alternatives proposed under their side are extremely problematic. Because when we gave you important reasons as to why fake news can be a matter of life and death, when we gave you examples in Sri Lanka where people were told that Muslims were putting sterilization pills inside of people's and Buddhist food that led to Muslim deaths. And the video is quite bad. It's literally just an edit of a guy asking on one side, did you put sterilization pills? And then a Muslim looking man saying, yes, we put. That is literally what passes for news these days. Unfortunately, your side of free market discourse and a lack of government intervention is what killed this man. And unfortunately, you're going to have to defend on your side what you're going to do about it, because unfortunately, what's happening right now simply isn't enough. But debate isn't about simply pushing examples, right? I have to be fair towards them. What you have to see is that this isn't a single example, it's a pushing of a pattern where fake news is weaponized right now to push violence towards people who can't defend themselves. It's a continuous pattern where the people who are attempting to sow seeds of misfortune and seeds of division among us attempt to use fake news, and we definitely need some way to fight against it. There's a few things that I'm going to talk about here. I'll take you later, don't worry. Firstly, I'll talk about why it's important is this idea behind the free market of ideas, and is it really enough right now? So, first of all, versus existing bills. There aren't really any hate speech laws in Malaysia if you read up. The only hate speech laws that are covered in Malaysia literally are sedition, which means that you have to go against the government, or defamation. That's a lot of loopholes, because not every fake news is necessarily seditious, or not every fake news necessarily directly harms a single person. It's very difficult for a small Muslim man who doesn't have that much money to come up and be able to sue that person in a civil lawsuit to say that he caused me defamation. In this case, we are the ones that are protecting those who need protection. But furthermore, if you read up on this, what a lot of people say is that this scope of news and the scope of specificity is already covered by the Communication and Multimedia Act of 1998. I've read the Communication and Multimedia Act of 1998. It is one paragraph that says, don't spread fake news. If you're talking about vague news under your side that's been able to become weaponized by the government, I think our amendment that's more specific and rigid about what a definition of fake news is actually leads towards less government abuse. And it's more likely that people won't be able to spread the fake news in such a manner. I think the scope and specificity and the harm that has been done on the outside with the amendments has to hold. But I will agree with you. I don't think that the law in its current form is perfect. In fact, it's extremely problematic. It was passed in 2 days after debate by a government that lost, I will admit, in order to silence its opposition. But ask yourself this, is your problem with the law that it was run by that government, or is your problem with the law with the fact that it in itself is problematic? And I think you'll find yourself answering that the problem is with the way the law was passed as opposed to the law itself. The law is incredibly important. But that doesn't change the fact that the government can abuse it. I think there's quite a few reasons why the government won't abuse it under our side. Firstly, you have to recognize that every single law can be abused, right? You coming up here and simply saying that laws can be abused is not an argument. Because the same Communications and Multimedia Act can also be used in order to jail dissidents. You can selectively say what is and what isn't bribery, or what is and what isn't theft, and selectively say what and persecute individuals. So simply saying that the government can abuse it is not an argument. In fact, instead what we propose is not that you don't need this law, but you need better alternatives to this law. I think Malaysia is ready for this, and for a few reasons. Number one, government. Clearly, or a new government. Clearly, I believe in the new government more than Syed Saddiq does, right? Because I don't think this government is the same government that pushed that law that is likely to jail up its own dissidents. The second thing, a stronger rakyat. I think we are the strongest rakyat that has currently existed in Malaysia. And if you think about it, that is the way in which you fight government abuse. Not by not allowing laws that are necessary to exist, but by checking and making sure and questioning the council to make sure that those laws are not abused in the first place. That's an important distinction that they have to deal with. But thirdly, I think there just needs to be stronger laws. So, the original bill, which surprisingly was not as bad as I expected it to be, the problem isn't what's in it. The problem is what's not in it. So the idea behind having warrants, the idea behind a high burden of proof, the idea behind it being more specific. The problem isn't the law, it's the way the law is necessarily executed that we are supporting. I'll take you, Saddiq.
Your side proposes the existence of the Council of Truth, who will arbitrate over what's right and what's wrong. Who will select these council members?
So there is a Council of Truth that exists in society. They're called judges, right? In defamation, when it comes to defamation, libel, slander, the government often, and like even sedition or anything pertaining to public media and free speech, we already have to make a lot of judgment calls about what is truth and what isn't truth. And I think this is simply an extension of that, and simply saying that we can't have arbiters ideas good enough? And can the government regulate that? Because we do recognize that there needs to be discourse, but at the same time, we also recognize that that discourse has to be centered around truth. Firstly, I think you need to recognize that in today's day and age, the ones who are sowing discourse, the ones who are attempting to kill Muslims or attempting to incite hatred are not playing by the fair rules. They flood social media with dozens and dozens of fake news, and that means that it's literally impossible for you to fight back as a citizen because you simply don't have the time, you don't have the ability to be able to fact check every single news that occurs in your newsfeed. They are playing dirty. We need to find a way to fight back. Secondly, you have to understand that a lot of people, when it comes to social media, have begun to accept it as a primary news source. But at the same time, it's not really treated as a primary news source. So the fact of the matter is that you're in a psychological state where you believe that what you're reading is truth, but it's not actually truth, which means anybody can post anything that incites hatred, and that's exactly why we need the fake news. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Malaysia is at a crossroads. Now, the examples that we have been giving are not from Malaysia, but I would say that I don't want Malaysia to ever reach that point where I have to give examples from Malaysia. I want a country that strongly protects its citizens so that no one has to suffer the crisis of fake news that plagues us. That's why I'm incredibly proud to propose. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is something of an interesting individual. I have been in the broadcast industry for a few years, and I've been emceeing also for far longer than that, and I've been a debater even further than that. I've never been able to use this phrase before, and tonight is that chance for me to use it. The next speaker needs no introduction.
This debate happens in the real world. The context is in Malaysia today. And while Sharif might be highly optimistic of the new government, I always believe that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. When AUKUM was first introduced, it was for a very noble reason. It's to ensure that fellow Malays especially went back to classes and focused on their studies, not on politics. But as time passes by, governments change, attitudes change, laws change with it as well, and it has been consistently been abused. It is very ironic that the side which says that we are looking at the empowered rakyat, the Malaysia Baru rakyat, which can differentiate between right and wrong, can speak up against the government. Yet they are the ones who say that this rakyat cannot differentiate between what's right and wrong, between what's disseminated online. I firmly believe, ladies and gentlemen, that even if there are lies spread out there, that all of you in this room will have the power to decipher between what's right and wrong. Because even if it is wrong, and blatantly wrong, the risk of allowing any government to exploit vulnerabilities, partial truths, is a cost which we are never willing to take, even if we are the best government ever. I have two questions to ask in this debate. The first is, why you should never trust the government? Quite ironic. Second, even if we take propositions, best case scenario, that these are genuine lies, it's not even partial truths or partial lies, genuine lies, why it's still harmful for Malaysian democracy? To the first, let's deal with the model. They say we want to make amendments. Well, I like to say, even with the best of amendments, the law in and of itself is bad. Let's look at the amendments. One, they say they will set up a council which will arbitrate between what's right and what's wrong. Why is that bad, ladies and gentlemen? One, the council is selected and decided by the ruling government. Previously, we we set up the MCMC Council, which decided what is akta sakit hati. Muka Najib Badut, akta sakit hati. The government decides and arbitrates over what's right and what's wrong. What is the comparison on our side? We have greater certainty on what's right and what's wrong. One, we allow judges to decide in comparison to arbiters of the truth. They are officially setting up the Ministry of the Truth to decide you are right and you are wrong. There are no half-truths in between. You will be taken action and one isn't. So I believe it's much better on our side. The second, I also believe it's much better to allow citizenry, the people on the ground, to make that decision. Because all the points mentioned by my teammate were not engaged. What falls today can be true 10 years down the road. They use flimsy examples from India and Sri Lanka. I like to believe Malaysia is not like India and Sri Lanka. We've never had the Anti-Fake News Act. We've never had killings like that. Up until 1969, we've never had it before. What is the Malaysian context here today? The Malaysian context is the Wang Kalian murder scandal, where hundreds of people were murdered, human trafficking. While it was not true 2 years ago, but because of investigative journalists from NST who were passionate in pursuing the truth, 2 years after, what falls before became the truth today. How does their policy disrupt investigative journalists and the media from reporting it? Because the media, even if they post about the fake, even if they post about something which is uncertain, they will be taken action upon. That's why Malaysia Kini objected to it. That's why even the Star objected to it. Because they know that in the end, the truth is inherently subjective. And if they want to talk about people dying, they give international examples. I give Malaysian examples which happen within Malaysia itself. Two, the ones who arbitrate over the truth is often the government, especially when government can exert pressure over what's right and wrong. Let's look at what happened in the last 2 parliamentary sittings. The government stated that what is not authorized news on 1MDB is considered as fake news. And the council, which is appointed and selected by the government, takes cues from the minister who said that, especially when we're dealing with something which is very subjective. For example, a partial truth, where I might say that corruption happens and the person steals the money, but instead of the person stealing 1 million, I said 500 million. I can be charged under the Fake News Act because according to the Act, partial truths and partial false are also wrong, something which they did not engage with. We think when there's a very ambiguous line, it's better for us to err the side of caution and allow people to decide. They might say, but Saddiq, never mind, calm down. Go to the court, bro. That is not the problem. The problem is when you want to go to the court, when one person is dragged by the hand of justice, millions of other Malaysians will no longer take the risk of sharing the news, of talking about it. Malaysia TV, the Star, NST will never report about it because they fear being shut down. These are consequences which are too big to deal with. So let's balance. Debate is always about the comparative, right? Let's take their best case scenario, where these are genuine lies, they will fitnah. How do we deal with that? One, we already see technological advancement dealing with the spread of fake news. We see Facebook, Twitter and the rest already signaling ones which can be trusted and ones which cannot. Two, usually who uses fake news? Is the government. The only case in Malaysia where the fake news law was used was by the police, the government institution. What does this mean? The government has a powerful resource to respond. They have the media, they have Asrawani, they have NSP, they have the Star, they have the rest. They have paid cyber troopers, God knows how many. We have so much power to respond. But who determines on our side? You want to defend the small guy? I want to defend the small guy. The whistleblower who doesn't have government institutions, who do not have the funding and network. What about them? When the truth is decided by the government, these are the people who will be suppressing the most. And while you say, trust the government, trust the government, trust the government, I don't. Because I believe that the success of the law should stand on its own footing. The law should not be determined on who governs or who is elected. Because that is the tyranny of a democracy. This might be a good government, but in 5 to 10 years' time, we might change. I Razak, Nauzubillah bin Zalik. Things can change. Power corrupts. An ambiguous law, ladies and gentlemen, can be abused when governments change. Never take the risk. That's why I believe the people are the best arbiters in determining the truth. Yes.
Look, the Communications and Multimedia Act already says, to some extent, that you can't post news that is problematic or insightful. Will you also take that away and allow the rakyat?
Yes, take that away. I want to take Akta Sakit Hati away, I want to take MCMC Act away, I want to take so many things away, including Sedition Act, but that's for a different debate. But I'm definitely disagreeing with what exists in the current laws. Let's also look at one thing. In order for you to prove fake news, because I mean as a lawyer you have to talk about it, the burden, right? The ones who need to prove after that it is not fake, you need documentary evidence. Let's look at Malaysia today. Again, don't debate about Malaysia. Even in this new government, OSA is still in action, Official Secrets Act. You know previously, last year only, the allegation states that Shafi Abdullah was paid by PM Najib 9.5 million. We cannot provide documentary evidence to show that it is indeed true, and we will label as fake news. Today, documentary evidence came out because people who were intimidated were no longer intimidated, and the OSA was no longer used to hide information. We do not want any possibilities where power centralization exists at the moment, where the government can hide behind the veil of the OSA and existing laws, where we need high documentary evidence to rebut it. We think it's much better to err the side of caution, to give power back to the hands of the people. So what is the comparison in this debate? Even if we have people spreading fitna and lies, I trust our electorate to deal with it. I trust technological advancement, which we've already talked about, to deal with it. But most importantly, even if it is wrong, we will have multiple different narratives. Someone challenging it, someone agreeing to it. In their world, there will be a council which is unaccountable, which is not elected, selected by the government, who will arbitrate over what's right and what's wrong. It is one single narrative defining what's wrong and what's right. Unfortunately, we trust the Malaysian electorate. We want more narrative. Ladies and gentlemen, I know it's ironic coming from a minister to say, never trust the government. Because I believe in the people. I've seen how people change. I was a fan of Najib Razak and I see how they can change. Power lies in the people. And that's why I significantly oppose this motion. Thank you.
You have 30 seconds to ask.
Hi, my name is Uma and I'm a first year student at IIUM. I have a question directed to the government team. So when a person shares fake news, the immediate steps law enforcement take is to arrest, interrogate, put individuals into trial in court to prove their innocence. Do you think that these traumatic procedures are necessary or fair just because someone exercised their right to share their opinions that could potentially be partial truths? Thank you.
Sorry, you have 1 minute.
No, I don't think that you should be put through that simply on suspicion, but I don't think that's especially relevant to the idea behind whether the bill is correct or not. I think that's more a question about the judicial process in Malaysia, which can be improved.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Anna from IIUM. So my question is basically that even with the rakyat's capacity to differentiate right from wrong, oftentimes people do act in the wrong. So in absence of this act, I think that people have a capacity to speak false narratives under the banner of freedom of speech, right? So my problem is that how does the media self-regulate in minimizing more negative forms of discourse such as unsubstantiated criticism or overtly ridiculing public figures, especially when wrong and right is more subjective when you repeal this fake news act, anti-fake news act. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think especially when you are in public office and when there's so much power in your hands and in the council which determines the truth, you should receiving the most critical and at times even unconstructive of comments, feedbacks and criticism. Because the risk of allowing that particular group of people to decide what's right and what's wrong is a lot bigger, especially when you know that there's so much power in the hands of the government. From the OSA to previously intimidation tactics which has been used and the rest. I think that's one. The second thing to also look here is, while there are still false narratives which are being distributed and discussed quite openly, it's better to have multiple different narratives challenging it. One saying this is true, one saying this is not true, one saying this is half true, and many more. Than only having one narrative saying that this is right and nothing else, halas. This is wrong, nothing else, halas. I believe once you have multiple different narratives, allow people to decide. We have TV Tiga previously, baik dengan orang sekarang, putusan. But we had Malaysia Kini, we had social media to check on one another. You might have someone overly critical of this politician, you also have someone defending that particular politician. You have a friend who's being slandered. At the same time, you have people defending it and responding it immediately. So that's why in the end, it's always about a comparison. Do you want to have one single common narrative, which is determined and decided by an unaccountable and unelected Ministry of Truth? You go, you read 1984 Animal Farm, you understand my reference? Or do you want to allow, as what government said, the empowered rakyat to decide, defend and decipher what's right and what's wrong, especially when there are already existing legal recourse like Defamation Act? Look at it. Thank you very much.